Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing spiritual magic, and the mind-body-spirit connection, and also how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin. I'm a teacher, tarot oracle card reader, and I'm also a singer and guitarist in the rock band Red Treasure, and I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina. I am a transformational life coach, and I help people shift away from negative thinking, and life gets better and better.
Thank you so much for listening to us. If you're listening to the audio version on Spotify, CastBox, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts, and thank you so much for watching us. If you're watching us on the Co-Creation Station YouTube channel, at this point, we're posting a brand new episode every Monday morning for you. We want to thank you for liking this episode, following us, subscribing to us, and giving us a review, whatever your platform allows you to do. All of these things help people find the show, and we're very grateful to you for that. If you're watching on YouTube, you can leave us a comment, and no matter how you are watching or listening, you can always email us at co-creationstation1111, no punctuation or spaces or underscores or anything, at gmail.com. We'd always love to hear from you. Each week we start our discussion here on Co-Creation Station from a different jumping off point. And this morning I actually wanted to start talking about something called segment intention, I think is how it's called, or how Abraham segment intending, which is something that I still haven't come up with, like the boilerplate 5-second explanation of who Abraham and Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks are. But essentially, Stephanie and I are big fans of this force beings collection of beings named Abraham, which might sound a little far-fetched at first, but essentially there's this lady, Esther Hicks, and she channels these beings who have infinite wisdom from beyond, and it's really cool, and you should check it out, even if you're skeptical hearing my 5-second description of it. And anyway,
Okay.
And I don't know if it was one of her books or CDs or just a series of workshops, but at one point I started hearing Abraham talk about segment intent. Yeah, I think it was one of the books, segment intending, which is basically like thinking of your day. Each day you wake up, thinking of your day as being broken up into segments in terms of whatever you're going to do. Like, I'm going to have breakfast.
Right now, like we were going to start the session.
Like, I'm going to have breakfast, and then I'm going to drive to the store, and then I'm going to do shopping, and then I'm going to go have coffee with my friend, and then I'm going to do my podcast with Stephanie, and all these sorts of things. And then at the very start of each segment, basically just pausing for a moment and focusing on basically getting your vibration in a positive state, and just sort of getting present with the fact that you intend for this next segment of your day to go really, really well and for you to enjoy it a lot. And I think it was powerful for me because a lot of times I think I would just go through my day, and if something that I interpreted as bad or frustrating or annoying would happen, I would just sort of be like, and then like quite often the rest of my day, sort of like they talk about in The Secret, would start going awry. And I didn't realize that part of that was like, I would be thinking and believing things like, oh, well, this day's ruined, or this day's gone to heck, or whatever.
And law of attraction's responding to what you're thinking and feeling.
Yeah. And segment intending actually at least gets me to, if I can do it properly, it's at least, or with some consistency, at least gets me to check in every time I'm doing a new activity and go, oh, I don't have to carry that negative thought, belief, energy, vibration into this next segment. I can just get myself in a better place, better feeling place, and expect this to go well. And I think the most important thing, and I want to hear everything you have to share about it, Stephanie, but the most important thing was when I first heard about it, started learning about it from Abraham, was that like I didn't realize that there were parts of my day that I sort of was branding in my mind, like this part is an important part of my day, and this part is like a non-important part that I don't care about. Example would be like if I was going to go visit you at your house, like that, like my visit with Stephanie would be important, and driving there would be not important. But what I've realized, since is that, but like things can happen on my drive on the way over to Stephanie's house, and those can be upsetting or, whatever. And then those could affect how I am when I show up at Stephanie's house. So it's good for me to do things. And again, I'm taking this suggestion from Abraham, is to, like, when I get in the car, say, I intend to have a smooth, swift, safe, wonderful, enjoyable trip to Stephanie's. And then when I get to your house and I park out front, I go, I intend to have a wonderful time with my friend Stephanie, where we have lots of fun, lots of laughter, and we connect and we share some good times together. And then same thing on the ride home. Like, I intend my ride home to be peaceful, smooth, safe, and enjoyable, stuff like that. So
Yeah, I teach this a lot with people I work with, and you said, like, the beginning, when you're lying in bed, you can do that as well.
yeah.
Add it to your morning routine if you want. The most power, One of the ways that I use it a lot is when I'm driving somewhere, like if I'm going to go meet a friend and spend the day with them, or meet them for coffee or whatever, or going to go see a movie. As I'm driving there, I'm thinking, I intend, and then I just say whatever it is I want. Like, I intend that, let's just, Tabitha and I have a great time. I intend that we're both grounded and connected to our inner beings, feeling love for ourselves and each other. I intend that we laugh and play. I intend that we're real with each other. And then I always add in, so whatever I want. And then before I end it, I always say, and I intend, as I'm driving home, that my heart is full and happy. I
Mm-hmm.
intend that we both had a really good time. I intend that I'm thankful that I had fun with this friend, whatever it is. So I
Mm-hmm.
always kind of bookend it so that I intend, like, what I want from it. And then I also intend how I want to feel when I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And then I end it with, I intend all of this and more.
Mm. Yeah, because that's the other thing. It's a little bit of you want to give the universe as much room as possible to bring good stuff that you can't necessarily conceive of or predict or plan into it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think a lot of times, I think I I do segment intend. I have a segment intention without realizing it. Like,
Okay.
a current example is I'm playing the Dungeons and Dragons game online with a group of people every Saturday, and I think when that time for that starts, I think at a subconscious level, I'm just like, this is going to be awesome because I have a blast every single time, right? And
Well,
then it's
so
like,
you already have a vibration about it, like
yeah,
a positive, a good feeling one. So
yeah,
that's awesome, because we can
yeah,
do the opposite, right? Like, oh
right,
shit,
yeah.
I remember the last time, blah blah blah.
Well, things like, things like going to the doctor or having to run an errand that's kind of frustrating or annoying to you or something like that, or driving, like, I live in Los Angeles, and people are just, myself very much included, really struggle with the fact that traffic in Los Angeles can be very frustrating. But I think that's one of the wonderful things, is, like, we think, it's easy. It would be easy for me to think, like, oh, playing Dungeons and Dragons, which is like my hobby that I love, that should be fun, but traffic should be awful.
Oh yeah.
It's like, no, everything can be positive in some way or
Or
other.
feel good, like,
Yeah,
yeah, everything can feel a little
it
better.
can be an enjoyable part of your life. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I mean, you were just telling me recently in friend time that you didn't always feel that way about Dungeons and Dragons. You had
right,
this tape that and
right,
it wasn't a good feeling tape, and it was a story that you had experienced, and so you had this
right.
belief about it. And then just recently that has changed. You had a different experience, and now you're like,
Yeah,
oh my God, I love it. I can't wait to play. There's a bunch
yeah,
of amazing people I meet. Which always helps, right? Like, I just had that the other day. I was running some errands, and as I was finishing one errand, I walked by, I think it was TJ Maxx or something, and I
mhm,
was like, oh, let me go in there and see. I was looking for something in particular. Let me see if they have dot dot dot. And as I walk in, they had some really cute tops, and I'm like, oh, because it had been on my to-do list to get some new clothes.
mhm.
And so I just, like, literally, I was in there like 20 minutes, grabbed a few things, tried them on, picked three, and left. And I was going to my next errand, and I thought, did that just happen? Like, what? So I was going to do some clothes shopping yesterday, and I thought, I was feeling a little down or whatever. And then I was like, oh, but remember when we went shopping and we got all those things and we loved them? And so as I thought about that, then I started feeling really good about going clothes shopping. I never got to
Yeah.
the errand, but I will.
Yeah, and I mean, I think also like one thing I've always appreciated, I've talked about this before, one thing I always appreciate about Abraham is or they are the being that taught me that I don't have to, not only do I not have to go if I feel down, if I'm in a low vibrational state, not only do I not have to like just try to force myself into a highly happy state, that's actually impossible. Like it's much more effective to slowly move up the emotional scale.
Right.
By the same token, if somebody's convinced that LA traffic has to be horrible every time you get in the car, it's unlikely to be effective if you just say to yourself, I intend this traffic to be great. I intend this traffic to be great. It's like you have like a lot of momentum from before.
Or we're just saying one thing, but our energy and vibration are saying the exact opposite. And so
you might start with something that's a small increment towards what you want to do. I intend that on this trip through LA traffic, I'm going to stay safe and I'm going to be able to manage my emotions or something like that.
Yeah.
And that allows for
that. Yeah. Softening the resistance, softening.
Yeah, just gradually. And then you can work your way up to like, this trip's going to be great. The funny thing about, this is a bit of a side road, but like, and for people who don't live in Los Angeles, maybe it's not that helpful, but like we're all obsessed. Almost everyone who lives in Los Angeles is obsessed with traffic because it's like the weather where I grew up in Maine. It's like it just affects your day no matter what. Like you have to plan around it. It's going to disrupt your day.
Interesting. You switched. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. No, it's really true. Like when you show up at a typical like family gathering in Maine, like the first thing everybody does, they complain about the weather.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a sunny day, like usually what happens is like somebody will say like, "Oh, great sunny day, right?" And then someone will say, "Well, we deserve it after the 12 days of rain," or something like that. But it is very similar. Like usually when I arrive somewhere for the gathering of people in LA, it's like, "Oh, how was traffic?" You're like, "Oh God, it was brutal. It's brutal." Like, well, what? And then we have the whole thing of like talking about the freeways and the different ways to get places. But the thing I realized recently is that the reason, a big part of the reason why people get frustrated, I'll just talk about myself. The reason I get frustrated with traffic in LA is because, first of all, I moved here when I was 44. So I had 44 years of I guess when I was in New York City, I wasn't experiencing this. But other than the years I was in New York City, I had all these experiences. Like growing up in Maine, there's never any traffic, despite what my father says. My father thinks 3 people stopped at a red light. It's like, oh my God, it's traffic. And I'm like, dude,
that's funny.
Spend one day in Los Angeles.
Neighborhood in San Diego.
That's literally just what happens at a red light. Like that's not traffic. But I had all this experience of not having to negotiate traffic. And even though San Diego, where you live, which is the 8th largest city in America right now by population, I'm always surprised, like other than the Monday through Friday, like height commute times, like 7 to 9 a.m. And this whole episode's about traffic, by the way. I just hijacked this show.
Intending on traffic.
But other than the height of commute times, like there isn't really, like you can get around pretty easily. There's sometimes a lot of vehicles
night and
on the
day
road
compared to LA. That's not even like we're.
Yeah, it's really surprising.
LA.
Because when I lived in San Diego for a year before I moved to LA, and I thought, 8th largest city in America, like that's going to be really brutal, and it actually wasn't. As long as you stay off the major freeways, like during the commute. Yeah. But anyway, this is a long way of explaining. So I had many years of driving freely, without any vehicles obstructing my progress, and then even here in Los Angeles, at certain times of the day and on certain roads, I'm able to drive freely, pretty much, without anything. So the problem when I get stuck in traffic is that my brain is comparing. It's doing 2 things. It's comparing the fact that I'm sort of stuck and not moving. We're doing the 2 mile an hour thing that we do in LA, where we actually are. Usually when you're in traffic in LA, you are moving. It's just like amazing how slowly you're moving. So one is I'm noticing that I'm moving very slowly, and two, I'm comparing that to all my experiences of being able to move with no obstruction, and saying that is good, and what I'm in now is bad. And that where I was able to move freely is how things should be, and this is how things should not be.
So that's like, so then, because this came up in the shower this morning about acceptance.
Okay.
The word acceptance, like acceptance,
Yes.
right? Like just, it is what it
Yeah.
is. In the moment, it is what it is. Whatever
Without
it may be.
judgment. Without
Yeah,
judgment.
just
Yeah.
accept, like, I just had this, and I had, and even when I was getting dressed, I was just like, oh, I just like my shoulders, I was like, oh, acceptance. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Wow, that was just really, it was really
But the thing is,
powerful.
like, the thing that trips me out about it, and I always think of my sister Kelly Worster, the chiropractor, has been on. She was on the last episode. She's been on many times.
Hi,
She has a friend also named Kelly, different last name, and she got very into Buddhism, practice of Buddhism a few years
Kelly.
ago. And I always remember when my sister Kelly visited her friend Kelly for the first time. They walked around places, and my sister would make a comment, and her friend Kelly kept saying, in this like gentle, loving way,
Yeah.
but she would just always say, "Why do you need to judge that?"
And
And it's true. It's like that.
I like that.
It doesn't feel like this is the truth, but it is the truth. It's like when I'm sitting in traffic and I'm saying it shouldn't be like this, that shouldn't be like this is that's from my brain saying that this is wrong, shouldn't be this way, it's bad.
Well, it's logic, right? Our whole logical mind, our whole brain, whatever, is just like, no, it should be this way, or instead of it just acceptance.
Because I think you can, to get back to segment intending, I think I could say something like, I intend that on this journey through Los Angeles, that I get there in a timely manner with minimal obstructions. I think the catch there, though, is like, I need to, like, if the universe knows, well, the universe always knows better than me. And if the universe decides...
It's not that it knows better, it's responding. It's responding to your vibration. So it's just responding. It's not that it knows better. Like your higher self knows better. You've got a ton of awesome things in your vortex. But the universe, are you talking about law of attraction? Or you're just talking about the universe, the grand scale of all that is?
Yeah, I think I was talking about source.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Source, universe, God,
whatever
you want to...
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, sorry.
Apologies.
No, that's okay. I kind of like it when you do the coach-client thing. It makes me feel like I'm getting some free stuff, you know. I used to pay a lot of money for that. Happily, but free today. It's free today.
My apologies.
No, but yeah, I mean, I think that the source, God, the universe, however you think of higher power, is smarter than me in terms of how to orchestrate things, and that includes time.
That blows my mind, the orchestration part.
Didn't you and I you and I had one thing, I think, but I was traveling with somebody else.
Or was it three? No, it was one thing. It was one thing, right? Yeah.
Oh, man. Now we're going to have to explain that. That was a friend.
Go ahead.
And the people on the audio version have no idea what we're talking about. All right. Anyway. No, I was going with a friend. We were going to go on a boat trip around Los Angeles Harbor, which I'd never done. I'd always wanted to do it. I really didn't know what Los Angeles Harbor even really looked like from the water.
I've never heard anybody say that.
Yeah, and I hadn't been on
that was a thing.
I hadn't been on a boat trip in a long time, and I really wanted to go on a boat trip, but I needed to do something that was like a day thing, like not like, you know, go to Catalina for 3 days or something like that. Yeah. So we left in a good amount of time. We were delayed, but it wasn't catastrophic. But then we hit some serious traffic on the way, and it really delayed us, and we ended up missing. I had bought tickets ahead of time for a particular boat that was leaving at a certain time, and we missed that time. So but we were in a good mood. We had a good vibration going. So we get there, and the tour boat company is like, "Oh, no problem. We'll just put you on the next boat." And then in the middle of our trip, in kind of for me, was the most unlikely spot, but I guess sometimes dolphins do this. We just, like, the boat turned, and there was like, I don't even know, like 20 dolphins just like started like
Oh,
jumping right in
wow.
front of the boat. And
Awesome.
I guess they come into the shallows of the harbor sometimes to feed, and it's
Yeah.
just like when they do that, it's like all of them basically, like all of the area dolphins. And so we watched the dolphins for several minutes, and then the boat moved away and everything. And then I was like, if we hadn't been delayed in traffic,
Right.
we
Yeah.
may not have seen the dolphins.
Right. Right.
Like Source may have wanted us to see the dolphins
Did I
because
ever tell that story? Oh man, you just reminded me of something. Freaking
please
A.
do. This is a place where we tell stories about that kind of thing.
So I just want to quickly say, even if you forget about segment intending, just do something you enjoy. Like I think of I just like listen to, I personally like listening to music. So I just
Yeah.
like, pump up the music and just like, okay, I'm just gonna make the best of
Or the
this.
jam, pump up the jam, as you
Yeah,
may.
yeah. So speaking of being late,
Hmm.
um, so I was going on this trip. I'm just gonna say it. So Lou and I were going on this trip. This was years ago,
Lou is your
and
husband.
yes, my soon-to-be ex-husband, and my nephew Ross was gonna take us to the airport, and he's a sweetheart. I love Ross, but he got to the house late, and so and he drives. He's a great driver, and he was driving slowly, and didn't have the heart to say like, come on, Ross, like put the go a little faster.
Drop the
So,
hammer
anyways, we thank you, Ross, for taking us to the airport. You're such a sweetheart, and I adore you. We get there and we miss our flight, and I was like, "Fuck!" So we get the next flight, but then on that flight, it's the window seat, so there's three seats, and I
Hmm.
end up sitting in the middle, and there's a young woman sitting on the window, and then Lou's on the aisle, and I just remember feeling like she felt familiar for some
Hmm.
reason, and she didn't really talk to me or anything. I'm usually really friendly to people. Halfway through the flight, I say hi to her and she says hi and we get to chatting. We had literally like 3 years before been on the on the same flight to where were we going? The first time we were going to Oregon, so she was telling me like all the things to do because we had never been to Oregon. This time we were going to Washington, which was we were staying like just border Oregon and Washington. And I go, weren't you gonna go to travel abroad for? She goes, yeah. She goes, I did. It like we were like blowing our minds. It's literally we sat next to each other like 3 years before on a flight.
Yeah.
And had we not missed that flight, that probably wouldn't have happened. And
And
so I
that's one
still
of those
don't
things.
know why today, other than telling the story right now, like why that even happened. Like, yeah, it was trippy.
No, what do you mean you don't know? You know.
Why?
You're the professional coach on this stuff, you know. It was an enjoyable experience.
Thank you very much. Trying to
Yeah.
make it bigger than it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Like the universe needed a way to give you an enjoyable experience, and it
Yeah,
gave you your
yeah.
late slow driving cousin.
Nephew.
Nephew, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. No,
Mm.
but I think that's one of those things where like um most people have a story like that, and they kind of dismiss it as like, what a wacky coincidence, you know? What a wacky coincidence that we happened to be there at the time that the dolphins were there, or that what a wacky coincidence that 3 years later we end up on a plane. And I just feel, I mean, everybody's entitled to their own beliefs, but I'm like, that's not a coincidence. Like,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
think that's the thing. It's like, then for me, that goes back to your point about to you. I think for me, when I'm segmenting my day, the times I've done it, it's good to be specific about things that are important to me. Like if like I was going to visit you, it's like I intend that we're going to have a lot of laughter, a lot of
yeah,
fun. We're going to
yeah,
connect on a real level, but
yeah.
also like but leave the door open for fun or whatever that I couldn't imagine. Like you couldn't have predicted that, like, in this segment, Higher Power, I would like to bump into someone that I was on a flight years ago and just be amazed
Right?
at the weirdness
Yeah,
of it. It's like that
yeah.
was something that
And
got
that goes
tested.
back to that whole like being human. I'm very limited in my thinking. Even the most
Yeah,
intelligent person in the world, the most intelligent people that don't know everything, can't
yeah,
imagine all the different possibilities. And that's the really cool thing about like um, working in conjunction with the law of attraction, the art of allowing, and
yeah.
things beyond what we can physically see. Like I heard someone say the other day about um, I'm listening to the Silva Mind Method
Hmm.
program, and I think it was there. I don't know, somewhere. I don't remember now. But they were talking about how we don't believe things unless we can see them. But they're like, how do you explain love then? You can't see it.
Mm.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh, I never thought of it that way. Because I feel love, but I don't actually see it.
Yeah.
It's not tangible.
I think I mean, that's one thing that's been a challenge for me with all of this stuff is that, it can't be quote unquote proven in the way that we used to be able to prove, like chemical experiments, like if you put sulfur together with nitrogen or something, like you can prove what happens by doing it 10 times with the same amounts and,
Wouldn't
like
they do
whatever.
that in What the Bleep when the ice formation, the water formations with the freezing water?
Well, that's a whole other thing. But yeah,
Okay.
well, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, we're starting to get scientific proof of the stuff that we're talking about, but there's still not enough to like prove everything that
Where
we said
it's,
here today
yeah,
is
yeah,
actually the way it works,
yeah,
And
yeah.
for me, I'd grown up with a lot of doubt, a lot of skepticism. I'd been sort of taught to question everything from a negative perspective. Like it's almost like assume
Mm,
everybody's lying, assume everything's not true,
yeah.
and then if something passes like an amazing number of tests, then you can accept it as true. And a lot of times, like when I'm talking to people about the art of allowing and the law of attraction, it's like I can't prove it in a way that would convince someone with just their logical mind. And the challenge there is that means that people can misuse that. People can try to manipulate people with it and all that kind of weird stuff. And there are a lot of, you and I have talked about, I think we've had a conversation about how myself as a tarot oracle card reader, one of the things you have to deal with in that world is there's a lot of people that are frauds and doing it to rip people off for money. Like, and that's like literally an ongoing thing. Is like there are tarot oracle card readers. They don't think that they have any kind of gift. It's an act, and they are literally just trying to bilk people out of money. And it's very challenging sometimes to suss out like what's somebody like me who's doing it for real and what's somebody doing it like that. Because from the outside, it's almost it's very difficult to tell. Again, I can't prove the way that people would like proof sometimes that like the card readings I do are channeling spirit and true and like help
Yeah,
you and
yeah.
everything. But I've
Again,
done.
it's a feeling, right? Like I
Well,
know.
it's experiential too. Like I've just had like the thing I talk about with my medium work.
No, I
Is
mean the person who's receiving. It's like we can feel, I can feel
right.
whether it's legit or not.
No,
That's what
that's
I
what I
was
mean. It's
meaning. Yeah,
experiential. It's like you
yeah,
have the experience of the reading, and you go,
yeah,
"Wow, it really
yes.
works." But
And two,
even within that, there are like psychological biases and things. Like I think I've told you before, it's often better for me to do a reading for a total stranger that I know
yeah,
nothing about
yeah,
than
yeah,
someone I
yeah, you've
know
said that.
because I carry certain assumptions,
Yeah,
biases, things into it that can affect the reading.
right, yeah,
And quite often, I'll never forget. A friend of mine asked me to do a medium reading for her mother, who I had never met, and I think I've told this story before. But the thing that I felt when I connected with her mother beyond the grave was her mother was telling me. I just kept getting, "I love you, I love you, I love you," and but my logical mind was like, I got to convince this lady that I'm a medium and I channel communication from beyond, and like
yeah,
the easiest thing a fraudster would do is say, "Well, your mother who's passed wants you to know that she loves you." So I was like avoiding that message. I was avoiding it. And
yeah, yeah.
I was like, "Come on, lady, give me something I can prove." Like. And then finally, it was so loud. This person beyond the grave was
The
telling me,
energy didn't stop, huh?
and I said, "Well, I know this is kind of whatever, but I said your mother really has been adamant through this whole session that she really wants me to tell you that she really loves you and all your siblings." And this woman just like almost instantly went to tears, and I was like, "Oh, I guess whatever." And then when she kind of gathered herself together, she said, "My mother, I know." She's like, "My siblings and I know my mother loved us, but she was never able to tell us ever while she was alive." And I was like, I gotta stop questioning with the logical mind.
Yeah.
That was me getting in the way of, the magic of the universe, operating. And that's the thing with segment and tape intention. I think the thing that people don't realize is like it seems like you go into LA traffic and you have a terrible time and it's LA's fault and it's the fault of all the people and it's all that. But like what you don't realize is you're a partner in creating that. Like you're working with the universe to create a bad experience for yourself because you're convinced that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
You know. So,
Cool. Awesome.
cool.
We'll touch on segment intending.
Yeah. So thank you so much, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. We hope this conversation was helpful for you in some way. You got something out of it you can use. Again, we want to thank you for liking the episode and the podcast and following us, subscribing to us, giving us a review. Whatever your platform allows you to do, it really helps other people find the show, and we're grateful to you for that. If people want to find you on the interwebs, Stephanie, how can they do so?
Powerinjoy.com, POWERINJOY.
And you can always find me, as long as it's not 100 years in the future when you're watching this, you can find me on Instagram at Collin_Daniels_Worster. Collin has 2 L's. Worster is WORSTER. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We wish you a happy, joyful, abundant, wonderful week of goodness. And we'll see you next time on Co-Creation Station. Bye, everybody.